This week, the HPT returns to one of our heritage events, the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor here in beautiful Black Hawk, Colorado. This is the home of our $1 million prize pool, and once again, the rounders from the Mile High State and beyond did not disappoint. Over 600 players joined us for our day ones, building an avalanche of money worth over $1 million. And now the final 9 are sitting at our final table ready to compete for HPT mortality and life-changing money. Let's play some poker.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello everyone, and welcome again to the HPT. I'm Fred Bevel. The lady to my left is poker professional Maria Ho, and this week we are at one of our heritage events, the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor here in Black Hawk, Colorado. You know, way back in the latter half of season 7 on the HPT, this event broke the $1 million prize pool ceiling, and we've never looked back.
713 players started out building that $1 million monster, and now the final 9 have a chance at a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Playing for the top prize of over $230,000 and a championship on a worldwide stage doesn't happen to a person every day.
There are pros that have been in the game for years that have never played on a stage like this. And Maria, as a pro who has been in this situation, what do you do to make sure you're ready to play your best?
I think the key is to stay focused on playing your absolute best game and not to focus too much on the stakes at hand, because that sometimes gets in the way of making the best decision possible.
Notes from the pro. Well, let's not keep these players waiting any longer. Let's meet some of the players at this final table.
My name is Ryan White. I live in Leawood, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City, and I work for Sprint as a corporate development manager.
My name is Adam Hudson. I'm from Denver. I'm an IT consultant.
My name is Doug Milner. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I am retired.
J.R. Richards is my name. I'm a real estate broker here in Denver.
My name is Keith Love. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I'm in marketing.
Dan Highmiller. I currently live in Las Vegas, and I'm a retired industrial engineer and cab driver.
My name is Colin York. I'm a professional poker player. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada.
My name is Max Crisp. I'm an ex-real estate broker. Now I just unemployed, trying to help my daughter manage her bar. If I was blessed with first place, I think we'd add another level on Big Willie's, which is her bar, and turn it more into an event center.
One of my incentives for the tournament is obviously to win and what the money means to me and my family. Another incentive is if I were to win the final table today, I would move up to the #1 money position in the Heartland Poker Tour history, and that would be really cool. So that's a big incentive for me.
Well, I'm one of the shortest stacks, so I really don't have that much worries. I'm going to gamble it up and try to get lucky.
My strategy coming in this final table is basically to continue doing what I've done the last 2 days. Take my time on every hand, make good decisions on every hand, and then the outcome will hopefully be positive.
Well, that's a lot of money. That's life-changing money. This is my first final table anywhere. It's makes me a little nervous, but I'm definitely going to enjoy it and make an exciting final table for everyone. HPT, you know, you guys come here every year, a couple times a year, and it's a lot of work. We appreciate you guys coming here.
I really enjoy it, especially for someone like me who works as a professional and then on the weekends can take one day off and go to a tournament that has this kind of a payday. I would suggest it to anybody who enjoys poker, is not necessarily a professional, but wants to play in bigger tournaments.
We're lucky to have the Heartland Poker Tour here in Colorado at Golden Gates. It's great structure. Everybody gets a lot of play for their money. There's a lot of time to each level. I love the fact that we have this tournament in Colorado, and whenever it's here, we block out time on our calendar at home so I can come up and play.
What can I take from real estate? Enjoying the game just like my job. It comes and goes, you don't get every deal. And just loving life.
All good players, all nice gentlemen. Let's check out the money on the line and the updated chip counts, then get right to the action.
A lot of money on the line for these 9 remaining players at the final table. First place prize is almost $250,000. $230,000 and change is a great payday for anybody, but even our 9th place finisher is going to go home with almost $21,000.
Life-changing money indeed. Here are the starting chip counts at this final table.
Keith Love kicks off this final table as our chip leader with $4.8 million. Adam, Colin, and Doug are all over the $3 million mark, which puts them in comfortable position. Our short stacks are really short here. As you can see, Dan and Max have 3 big blinds each.
As blinds start off at this final table at $30,000 and $60,000 with a $10,000 chip ante. Our 9-handed final table will begin on the 9 seat, Ryan White.
Action folds to Dan with that 3 big blind stack we were talking about. He has 10-9 offsuit.
Maria, is that good enough with 3 big blinds?
I think in an unopened pot, he's in middle position. I'd say stick it in there.
Make it $180,000.
He doesn't go all in, but he doesn't leave himself anything behind. Just 5,000 in chips are left behind there. And now we are on Steve Levy. He's got pocket 3s. And considering your opponent just has 5,000 in chips behind, I can't imagine Steve not calling here.
I think Steve's just wondering if he needs to ISO this, and he probably will.
Raise.
He does raise, makes it $350,000, and that is going to clear the field. Or it should, and it does.
Look before I decide to call.
So here we go, Maria. First hand of the final table. Dan Heimiller's tournament life at risk. He's going to the flop behind, but as you can see, statistically, he's a favorite to win.
It's pretty much a flip, about as good as Dan could have asked for with 3 big blinds to be in this spot. He's not dominated at all.
$570,000 in the middle right now. Dan hoping to go his way, and he can start the comeback grind to the championship. Otherwise, we'll have our first knockout as the flop is 4, 10, queen, 2 spades.
Dan pulls ahead with a pair of 10s, so now Steve needs a 3 in order to knock Dan out.
Let's see the turn.
The turn is the deuce of diamonds. Close but no cigar for Steve. One of the 2 3s in the deck is what he needs to eliminate Dan Heimiller. Otherwise, Dan will double up.
And the river's the 6 of clubs, and Dan is going to double up. He's still got a long way to go if he wants to have a fighting chance, but doubling up is always a start.
Baby steps, my friend, baby steps, 1 pot at a time. We're just getting started here at the Golden Gates Casino with life-changing money on the line. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the HPT from the home of our $1 million prize pool, the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor here in Black Hawk, Colorado. Let's get right back to the action.
Keith Love sitting comfortably in that top spot. The rest of the players are all looking fairly comfortable with their stacks, except for our 3 short stacks. They're still looking for a spot to double up.
Especially Max Chris, only 3 big blinds in his stack. And you can see it doesn't get much healthier. Heimiller only 10. James Richard only 12. Then it gets healthier after that as Stephen Levy has 37 big blinds all the way up to the chip leader with 80 big blinds. As blinds continue at 30 and 60,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. It looks like Max Crisp, fresh off his double up, will be under the gun. And he's going to fold his 8-7. Over to the young gun, Steve Levy.
Steve just has a baby face. I mean, he is still young, but I've known Steve for a while. And that face still looking as young as ever.
He's going to be carded when he's 80.
Adam raises to $220,000 with 10-9 suited.
Ryan White in the 9th seat makes a very disciplined fold, a suited King 10. Colin also folds. Dan Heimiller looks down at Ace-Queen. Dan's a professional poker player, got turned on to the HPT by our current player of the year, Alan Kessler.
Call.
And he's going to make the call. Next to him, J.R. Richards folds. So Adam Hudson and Dan Heimiller heads up as the flop delivers 4-7-3 with 2 spades. So right now, Heimiller's ace-queen still the best, and he is going to move all of his chips in the middle here on the flop. Now, Maria, I don't get this. Why not just do a pre-flop?
That's just a hand I would go all in with. You don't really have fold equity against a raise with 8 big blinds. You're not in fear of not having the best hand probably or not getting a full double up in that situation. So
keep you alive for a little while.
Not really sure. Either way, Adam's still going to call. He's got 2 live cards.
No reason for Adam not to call. The price was right. So the players are going to table their hands. Heimiller's going to see he's ahead, but not by much, and he shakes his head in disbelief when Adam tables 10-9 suited. So Adam hoping to eliminate our first player from this final table by hitting some running straight cards or pairing his 9 or 10. Both cards are live.
We'll keep you alive for a while.
A little over $1 million in this pot up for grabs.
The turn is the ace of spades, and that's going to do it for Dan. He's got the hand 1, and he's going to double up again.
Dan started this final table with just over 200,000 in chips, only 3 big blinds in his stack, 2 double ups, and 3 hands later, he is over $1 million in chips. No limit tournament poker. That's how it goes, kids.
Nice answer.
So just like that, Dan Heimiller goes from 1 foot out the door to a contender for over 230,000 in the HPT championship. He is a dangerous player to give chips to.
Blinds are going up to 40-80 with a 10K ante.
Looks like Adam Hudson will be under the gun. He's looking down at Queen 10 offsuit. A hand I easily fold if I'm under the gun.
Cool.
But he's going to go ahead and limp in. Now we go to Keith Love. He folds. Maybe I'm just too tight.
I probably wouldn't be playing that hand from under the gun. I certainly wouldn't be limping in with it from under the gun.
And Doug Milner looked like he was about to fold, and then he kind of changed his mind mid-motion. He put his cards back on the table and reached for chips to make the call. So now we're on Ryan White, deuce 4 offsuits. Come on, Ryan, just fold them. We got places to go, buddy. Colin's going to fold. Now over to Dan. He folds. Now we're looking at the very well-dressed James Richards, also known as JR.
Feel like James needs to switch names with Keith Love with that outfit, and it would match up a little better.
JR lives in Denver now, but he's originally from Vietnam, has 2 career HPT cashes. And this final table appearance will be his biggest score ever. He's a real estate broker and plans on using his winnings to invest, which is a horrible thing to do with prize money. I think you should blow it with reckless abandon.
So now this becomes a 4-way limped pot. Got a lot of different hands here looking to hit the flop.
And the flop is very interesting. 5-3 ace, all hearts. The only player holding a heart is Adam. He has the queen of hearts. He's going to check, as does Doug. Now we're over to James.
Can't see why James would give a free card with 2 pair and 3 hearts on board, and he doesn't. In fact, he just decides to move all in for his entire stack.
Maybe the coolest all-in I've ever seen at an HPT final table. He's standing up, taking off his coat. He says, I'm all in, boys.
Action on Adam.
Adam is on the decision now. He's holding the queen of hearts. And he smartly lays it down. And Doug also lays it down. So an all-in flop bet from JR. It's going to scoop him a nice sized pot worth just under $1 million in chips.
This final table is just starting to get interesting. You don't want to miss a thing.
Welcome back to the HPT. She's Maria Ho. I'm Fred Bevel. We are 9-handed on our way to a $230,000 top prize. Let's get right back to it.
Keith Love maintains the chip leader status here with 4.7 million. Doug and Colin both have over 3.5 million. A few of our short stacks have doubled up and now are over the 1 million chip mark. They're not completely out of the woods yet though, especially not Max Crisp, who is on life support.
Just 3 big blinds and Max crisp stack, but the dynamics are very interesting. 5 of these players under 25 big blinds, so I expect to see quite a bit of shoving coming up if we see any hands. Under the gun, this hand will be the young Steve Levy. He's going to fold, as does Adam Hudson. Keith Love making his 3rd final table here at Golden Gates and started this table with almost a 1 million chip lead. Action around the table folding.
Action folded all the way back around to Max Crisp in the big blind, and with 1 big blind already in and only 2 big blinds back, King 8 is definitely more than enough to get the rest in.
I call, but don't have them covered up.
So Keith tables his pocket 9s. Max is seeing he only has 1 live card, the king.
Come on, cowboy, save the day, baby.
So Max is going to have to get lucky, or he will be our 9th place finisher, which is a great payday worth just under $21,000.
The flop is 10-10 deuce. No help to Max. He's still looking for that king.
The turn is the 7 of clubs, so Max down to just a king and only a king on the river.
Cowboy.
No paint.
You can hear Keith praying for no paint, and that's what he gets as the 7 of hearts falls on the river, and it's Max Crisp who will have to be the first one to say goodbye at this final table as he shakes the hands of all of his competitors and wishes him luck.
Well, not all the short stacks could double up, or else this final table would never end. All the remaining players are going to get a little bit of a pay jump ladder.
40 and 80 are still the blinds here with a 10K ante. Action in this hand will start on Keith Love. Suited Jack 10 under the gun. And I like what Keith is doing here. If you're going to play it, you should raise it.
Jack 10 of hearts is definitely a good enough hand to come in with a raise.
Action folding around the table. We're now on Colin York, who has a raggedy hand, pocket aces.
He kind of looks over at Dan, checking out his stack behind him, trying to think what's the best way to play it, probably whether it's to 3-bet or just to flat. I think it depends a lot on the opponent that has raised before you. If you find Keith to be, you know, a tighter player, you might not want to 3-bet him because you don't think he's going to call you. And I think that's what Colin is doing right here, just flatting that raise. And he does get Dan to squeeze behind him, but Dan has a hand that he should be going all in with after a raise and a call. Dan's looking at ace-queen, a lot of dead money in the middle. He's definitely putting in 16 big blinds with that hand.
Well, this is working out great for Colin. He limps in, hoping someone will raise behind him. He absolutely gets that. Daniel's all in, was able to get rid of the original raiser, Keith Love, so Colin getting to take his aces heads up here against Mr. Highmiller. So Dan started this final table with only 3 big blinds, but had a quick couple of double ups to get him over 1 million in chips. And all of that is at danger unless he can get lucky here.
He has proven before. Yes, he has. He can make that happen. Chantel, let's see a flop.
7%.
And the flop is ace, jack, 10, 2 spades. It's quite the flop, even though Colin does have top set. Dan now has gut shot outs to Broadway.
Dan hoping to find a king for the Broadway straight. Yes! And there it is, the king of spades on the turn. But it's not over yet, Maria. Colin still has any spade for the nut flush, or if a non-spade queen falls on the river, they'll both have the Broadway straight, and they'll chop the pot.
And a royal flush. I hope I didn't jinx myself.
Also, any queen will make a chop, and the queen of spades will give Colin a royal flush. Chantel?
Colin almost has too many outs.
The river is the 10 of clubs, and that is one of the outs Colin was looking for to knock Daniel out. He has paired the board, bowed up, and Daniel is going to be eliminated in 8th place.
What a topsy-turvy hand that was, and at the end, the best hand held up. More poker from the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor here in Black Hawk, Colorado when we come back.
Welcome back to the Golden Gates Casino in Black Hawk, Colorado. Players are really battling it out. Let's go back to Fred and Maria.
After eliminating Dan Heimiller in 8th place, Colin York has now surged into the chip lead spot with $5.2 million. Keith Love is just a couple chips behind him, though, and Adam Hudson and James Richards are our short stacks with under 20 big blinds.
Blinds continuing at this final table at 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. We're now seven-handed, which is also known as the bubble to short-handed play. Under the gun is Adam Hudson, and he's going to limp in. Ace 9. Doug Milner looks down at pocket jacks. Doug is 73 years old. He's retired. Plans on using his money to play golf. Now that is a man I can support.
And Doug wakes up with jacks, so he's going to raise.
He makes it 280,000.
Raise from Doug. Over to Ryan.
And now we're waiting for Ryan to fold. Ryan just trying to be a deliberate player. He's not tanking to just be annoying. He actually will take the same amount of time whether he's going to play or not. Action continues to fold. We're on Steve now. So now we're back to Adam, who limped in with an off-suited ace-9, and he's making even a bigger mistake, in my opinion, by calling an additional 200,000 to see a flop.
And the flop is ace 7-7, and Adam kind of looks like a genius now, but off of a 20 big blind stack, I don't really like limping and then calling a raise with ace 9.
Both players check the flop as the 5 of spades comes on the turn, and Adam's still waiting to pounce. He checks the turn. Now Doug's going to bet 400,000, and Adam's going to check raise all in.
I think Adam's actually giving Doug a chance to get away from his hand pretty cheaply here. I think if he just check called here, he might be able to get a little bit more out of Doug on the river. It's obvious that Adam's probably not going to be check raising on a bluff.
Doug counting up his own stack to see what he'd have if he called and lost. Well, it's pretty hard not to put Adam on an ace or a 7 right now, and I think Doug's going to smartly make the fold. And he is going to make the wise fold and lay it down. And
I'll help you out with that.
I agree with you, Maria. Adam, in my opinion, shouldn't have been in the hand in the first place, but then when he got into the hand and had the best of it, he way overplayed it and left a lot of money on the table.
I think check raising is a very strong line to take there. I think I would have just liked to see him bet on the turn or check call.
Seven-handed here at the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor, home of the HPT's $1 million prize pool. Blinds remain at 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. It looks like Mr. Milner will be under the gun. He folds ace 4. Now over to Ryan White. Ryan has been very quiet at this table. I don't think we've seen him splash around yet.
He seems to be fairly tight as he folds Jack 8 suited in an unopened pot.
Looks like Jack 10 is the holding for Colin, and he's going to raise it up to 230,000. JR is going to fold. Now over to Steve. He's got King Deuce on the button. No need to waste money on that hand. So now over to Adam Hudson. It looks like he's going to complete the raise by calling with suited ace 5. So now over to Keith Love in the big blind. He's got 6-5 and very priced in to see a flop at least.
And Keith will come along for the big one. We're going to have three-way action.
So three-handed as we go to the flop.
Got a lot of speculative hands here. And the flop is Jack 10-6, 2 diamonds. Big flop for both Adam and Colin. Adam flops the nut flush draw. Colin flops top 2 pair. If both players decides to fast play this, we're going to see some fireworks.
Both players have checked over to Colin. No doubt Colin is going to bet here. Question is Adam just going to smooth call or is he going to check raise? We saw Adam check raise a moment ago against Doug Milner.
I think with the texture of this board, both are fine. You'd have to think that Colin probably doesn't have a lot of these hands in his range, and if Colin didn't flop top 2 like he did, Adam might have been able to take this down without hitting his flush.
Adam is going to check raise again. He's going to make it a 1.2 million chip raise.
Keith lays it down, action will be back to Colin.
All in?
Colin moves all in, and Adam calls it off now that he's committed with his nut flush draw. You can't really check raise a fold there, obviously. And Colin doesn't look like he's loving it too much because Adam does have several outs to double through him this hand.
Let's see the turn.
And there it is, the 9 of diamonds on the turn. That gives Adam the nut flush.
Fade one more, I guess, huh?
And now Colin is hoping to find a jack or a 10 on the river to bow it up and snap off the flush.
Colin was able to do it against Dan Heimiller, knocking him out. Let's see if he could do the same to Adam.
So on to the river we go. It's the 2 of clubs. And you can see Colin is a little perturbed, to say the least, at how that hand played down.
You just never want to play a huge pot like that when you're up against a draw, and sometimes, depending on your opponent, you don't have to, but unfortunately for Colin, he just got into an inevitable situation. When there's this much money on the line, there is going to be a lot of action that comes with it. Come back for more from Black Hawk, Colorado.
Welcome back to the HPT. She's Maria Ho. My name is Fred Bevel. We appreciate you tuning in. We have an exciting table with over $230,000 waiting for the last player standing. Let's get right to the action.
Keith Love and Adam Hudson still on the big stacks here with more than $5 million in chips each. Steve Levy has joined the shorter side of the chip stacks with about 16 big blinds, and James Richard is our shortest stack with 9 bigs.
Blinds getting more expensive. They're now 50, 100,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. Adam Hudson is under the gun. He looks down at pocket queens. And he is going to just limp in from under the gun. So Adam trying to play this hand a little tricky, hoping someone raises.
I think it's a good play to limp in when you know you have a lot of aggressive players behind you, but I don't feel like this table's really been playing like that, so I'm not really sure about the limp. But James does find a hand that he's willing to move his short stack in with ace-jack suited. And of course, Adam is going to call his all-in. Not really sure why Adam needs a count.
Yeah, I agree with you, Maria. I don't know why you would get a count on your opponent, especially when he's one of the short stacks at the final table. I mean, you limped with queens under the gun for a reason, right?
Yeah, this is strange. And, you know, James is probably not going to like it when Adam does call because...
It's borderline slow roll.
Yeah, absolutely.
I call.
Well, he does make the call. He tables the queens, and now James sees he's going to have to get a little lucky here. He's got the ace, and he's got spades.
I'd like to shrink it, but it's...
Queen of hearts, queen of diamonds.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take a flush.
The flop is 6 king jack, so James pairs the jack. That's a little bit of help.
No.
So now any jack or ace. There's no spades came on the flop.
Like low card. Oh, they're folded.
The turn is the 9 of hearts, and James is still looking for that jack or the ace to come on the river in order to double up.
The river is the ace. Justice is served if you're a James fan. $2 million in chips going his way after cracking Adam's queens.
Thank you very much.
A lot of guys were rooting for you, but good job.
Thank you.
We are still in the early stages of this
table.
final table, and James Richards has been all in at least 3 times that I can think of. Action in this hand starts with Steve Levy. He's going to fold Jack 3. Adam folds. So now we're over to Keith Love. And he's going to raise it up in middle position with offsuited deuce 5. Keith changing gears a little bit. Ryan White looks down at ace-jack on the button. Ryan hasn't had a lot of opportunity to play hands yet. He's been a little card dead.
I think because Keith is raised in fairly late position, I feel like Ryan could 3-bet this here. And he does to 440,000. It's probably going to end the hand for Keith as he only has 5 deuce.
Action folded around the table. We're now back on Keith.
When a fairly tight player 3-bets you for the first time, you're probably more inclined to let your hand go.
Well, Keith is not feeling that kind of inclination, Maria. It looks like he's getting ready to make the call. Actually, it looks to me like you might be re-raising.
Yeah, I definitely think 4-betting with 5 deuce is better than calling.
Raising to 1.2 million chips total.
I'm all in.
Well, I guess Ryan doesn't want to get pushed around here, and he is going to go all in, which should definitely end the hand here for Keith.
Decision back to Keith.
Well, Keith was making an aggressive stance pre-flop, but he's got to give Ryan credit for a hand now. He is going to lay it down. He bled a few chips on that.
You got to admire Keith for trying to make a play for that pot there. But like I said, I think you just got to let a tight player get away with the first few times of 3-betting before you kind of feel like maybe he's not as tight as you think.
Well, Keith is going to lick his wounds and wait for another hand. Time to step away from the action here at the final table and join Doyle Brunson in A Poker Life, featuring the legend telling the stories of yesteryear. Here's a clip of Doyle talking about the 1972 World Series.
1972 came down to the last 3 players was Puggy and Slim and myself. And in here come all the reporters and TV cameras and everything and flashing and taking pictures and going to sit up. And I said, listen, I don't want all this publicity. My family's back in Texas. I don't want to embarrass them that their dad's a gambler. I told everybody I'm in the oil business or selling insurance or something. And I don't want to win. I want to withdraw, but I'd like to keep my money. And so Puggy says, well, I don't want to win either. Puggy and Slim said, well, I do. And so we said, okay, and we'll let you win. And we went back in there, and Slim, being such a showman, made such a fool out of us, you know, showing his hand and everything. And finally Jack came up and said, listen, you guys, what are y'all doing? This is obvious. And he stopped it again. And he called us in and said, y'all can't do this. And I said, well, Jack, I don't want the publicity. I didn't know we was going to have all this, or I wouldn't have entered. And he said, well, okay, so you guys do whatever you want to do, but you're going to have to play it off. And Doyle, you can just say that you're sick and withdrew, and Puggy and Slim can play for it. So that's what happened. And Slim beat Puggy, which was the best thing could have happened, because Slim was such a great showman. He just generated a big interest in poker. I mean, poker owes Slim a lot.
The man is a living history book. More poker from the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor when we come back.
Welcome back to the HPT here at the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor. Let's check in with the latest chip counts.
Still a lot of play left at this final table. Colin York and Ryan White are in good shape though, both with over 4.6 million, but both Adam Hudson and Stephen Levy have under 20 big blinds and are short stacks.
Stephen Levy, the shortest with just 14 big blinds, so he'll be looking to have the short stack charm that has been at this final table. Seems like everybody gets at least one double up. Action in this hand will start with Doug Milner, and he looks down at garbage and quickly throws it away. Now over to Ryan White. Ryan also electing to fold. This is Colin York. Colin lives in Las Vegas, started day 2 5th out of the 152 players that returned to day 2. Colin is a professional poker player, making his first final table, looking for his first championship.
And I think with 20 big blinds, Adam should probably just 3-bet shove with jacks, because you don't really know what to do if an overcard flops. And I just think jacks are too good not to get it in with 20 big blinds.
And Keith Love is going to re-raise it here with pocket tens.
And I feel like Keith is just doing what Adam should have done, because now Keith feels like it's a good spot. There's a lot of dead money, and he thinks tens is probably the best hand here. If he could get both players to fold and pick up what's in the middle, that's definitely a win for his stack.
Well, now Colin's in a sticky situation here. He was the original raiser. He's been flatted and re-raised before the action got back to him. Ace-Queen offsuit. In my book, this is a fold. What do you think?
I think that's what he's considering, because he realizes with both Keith and Colin's stack size, he should either go all in or fold. And he does decide that his hand is good enough to go all in with. And see, now Adam's really in a bad situation, because he's not even sure if jacks are good anymore when they were, and he might end up folding the best pair.
And unfortunately, that is what Adam does. And now the decision is on Keith. If he makes this call, he will be all in for his tournament life.
And I feel like that was definitely a missed double-up opportunity, possibly for Adam Hudson. And now Keith is on the decision.
Will you show?
You're gonna see it either way.
Well, will you show now?
If you call or if you fold. I'll show it either way, sure.
Keith Love asking Colin if he'll show if he folds. That's usually a sign of weakness.
I'll call.
The players table their hand, and Keith is going to see that he's ahead.
You're never folding.
And I feel like Adam's kicking himself a little bit, and he's not going to tell anybody he folded jacks.
Kind of a big pot.
So Keith Love going to this flop ahead. His tournament life is at risk. Oh dear, the flop is 6 ace 8. And just like that, Colin pulls way ahead.
It's a good call, though.
And that is Colin's girlfriend on the rail there, sweating her
I
man.
didn't think you were folding.
The turn is the Jack of Diamonds, so Colin looking real good right now. Just needs to fade one of the 2 10s left.
You know who else would have looked real good is Adam Hudson if he was still in.
He would have turned the set there. A queen on the river is not what Keith needs, and he will be eliminated in 6th place. And he will go home with over $36,000 in cash and bragging rights, saying he's made 3 HPT final tables, all for big, big money. As Colin gives his girlfriend a loving glance over on the rail.
I had 2 pair.
Had an opportunity to play with them at another HPT event, actually. These two have become HPT's new power couple. His girlfriend was killing the 2-5 game the other day.
Love to see more women playing poker.
Under the gun this hand will be the young Steve Levy. He's going to fold, as does Adam Hudson. We're over to Ryan White now. And Ryan is going to raise it, makes it $250,000.
I guess Ryan thinks that the button's a good enough spot to open up his game here.
And Colin, the professional player making his first career final table, is going to make the call with King Queen. I think I deserve credit for not mentioning that that's my favorite hand.
Oh, wait, but you just did.
No, I didn't. I was saying I should because I didn't. Look at this flop. King 10 King. Colin pulls way ahead.
Now it's just a matter of how much he could get Ryan to put in this pot.
Colin's going to check, and looks like Ryan is going to stage the standard continuation bet, and he fires $400,000.
And then obviously I'm sure Colin knew Ryan's good enough for at least one continuation bet, and he should just call here.
That's exactly what he does. He's stringing them along. The queen falls on the turn, and that gives Colin the full house. And once again, he's going to check.
And I like Ryan's persistence here. He wants to try to rep this board.
I've been in Ryan's spot many a times. You try to rep the hand that your opponent is actually holding. This is not going to be inexpensive for Ryan. And Colin looks like he is going to raise. He is going to go all in.
If I were Colin there, I probably would have just called, because you know it's very hard for Ryan to call you without either a straight or the other king.
Well, Maria, I think after Ryan fired both on the flop and the turn, Colin maybe thought he had bigger than what he had, and he could maybe call the all-in. Unfortunately, his all-in shut down the action, but he still scooped a very healthy pot. 6-handed, grinding down to one champion. More poker when we come back to the Golden Gates Casino here in Black Hawk, Colorado.
Welcome back to the Heartland Poker Tour. We're 6-handed. Let's take a look at the chip counts.
Colin York is way the chip leader right now with 6 players remaining. He's got 7.3 million. Doug, Steve, and James are all tightly bunched up in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot. Ryan White has 2.2 million, and Adam Hudson is our short stack with 1.1.
Steve Levy at one point was an extreme short stack at this final table. He's gained over 2 million in chips since we last checked in. As blinds are moving up, they are now 60 and 120,000 with a 15,000 chip ante. I think it says a lot about a poker player when they can have such an anemic stack. Like, you're literally down to a point where you just flat out need to get lucky before you can start really playing again. And Steve has done that, and he's playing a great game.
Steve looks down at a huge hand here, queens.
And he is going to raise it, makes it $275,000. And Adam is going to go all in right behind him with Jack 9.
Not really sure why Adam wants to put in his 10 big blinds in this spot.
And now Colin going to look down at his hand, and I only caught a glimpse of it, but it looked like ace-king to me.
And this is kind of a cooler since Steve does have such a big hand. But I think because Adam's all in there, Colin's just going to 4-bet and try to ISO Adam's stack.
Colin eyeballing his opponent's stacks.
2.4.
And he has announced the re-raise. He's going to make it 2.4 million. And I don't see Steve doing anything but just shoving here, Maria.
I think Steve knows that Colin has to have around the top of his range here. Steve just wants to give himself a quick second to think about it, but with 30 big blinds, he can't really lay down queens. You could see that he doesn't like this spot, though, because, you know, Colin at worst has ace-king. He could have jacks or tens sometimes, but what if he shows up with kings or aces here, which he could have as well?
Steve Levy is 29 years old, has almost 600,000 in career earnings with 1 career win. He has 7 final tables on his resume.
I think Steve is just trying to work out in his head if Colin would just flat Adam's 3-bet all in with aces or kings, and he decides that he's going to get queens in here. It's a perfectly standard spot.
Well, we don't see this every day. 3-way pot with 2 players all in. Steve Levy has the best hand right now with pocket queens.
Good luck, Steve.
But Colin has 2 overs, and Adam is really hoping to get lucky here.
Adam has the shortest stack, so he's playing for the main pot. Colin and Steve are playing for both the main and the side pot.
Well, pick your sides and start rooting. Is it Colin, Adam, or Steve you want to see win this hand? Big flop coming. Remember, 230,000 and change is going to the last player standing at this final table. Here comes the flop.
The flop is 4, 7, 8. All good for Steve's queens so far. He's faded the flop, which is huge for him.
Adam does have a gut shot straight draw. Colin still has the 2 overs. So a couple of more streets to fade for Steve. The turn is the 5 of hearts. So now Adam has a double belly buster draw, which is just like having an open-ender. A 6 or a 10 will make his straight. Colin still has a live ace-king. Steve hoping to find a brick on this street.
He's got to fade quite a lot of outs, but he still has the side pot he could win, even if Adam did hit his gut shot.
Ace on the river is going to give it all to Colin.
That's a very unfortunate card for Steve. He can't even win the side pot now. He is going to be eliminated, but because he had more chips than Adam, Adam's going to be our 6th place finisher, and Steve is going to be our 5th place finisher.
Both Steve and Colin did exactly what they were supposed to do with the hands that they had. Unfortunately for Steve, he just got a little unlucky. On the other side, if you're rooting for Camp Colin, you're loving this. He has just expanded his chip lead to monster size officially. You can see Colin's girlfriend standing next to Steve. She's the most excited person on the rail. So big drama in that last hand. We lost 2 players, which brings us down to 4-handed poker with Colin as the dominant chip leader.
Colin's got about 12 million to his opponents, who all have about 3 million or less.
Maria, to be 4-handed at the final table and have over half the chips in play.
It's got to feel pretty good to be in Colin's shoes right now.
713 players sat down on all the day 1 flights for this event. And as always, we started with the final 9 on the last leg on the road to a championship. Maria, obviously everybody at this table wants this championship. What was your take on the play today?
Well, in the beginning, when a few of the shorties were doubling up, we thought this might be a long, kind of drawn out final table, but with that double elimination, now they are 4 left, and Colin York has a huge chip lead, so we'll see if he's able to take that all the way.
The young pro from Las Vegas making his first final table in his young career and hoping to close out his first championship. He'll be one of 4 players, all vying for that top prize of over $230,000 next time right here on the HPT. Now, do you think you have what it takes to sit under the bright lights and the worldwide television cameras of the HPT? Well, then log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. For Maria Ho and guest sideline reporter Dan O'Brien, thanks for tuning into the HPT. We'll see you next time.
Poker face you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game. Talk trash all you want. To me, it's all the same. You won't leave with much when you come in second place. Oh, and I can wait you out, but I'll take you down. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack on Friday, oh mama, cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.